Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking again about bass lines because I recently listened to a live set from the mighty Avi Algranati's Space Cat at the mighty Otsora Festival, and it was so refreshing to hear something that sounds a little bit different. Because yeah, if we have one issue in the Sidechain scene, in my opinion, then it's definitely not the level of production, but it is diversity. Everything tends to sound a little bit the same, and then there are a few different subgenres, but they then within themselves also sound quite similar. So I found it just very refreshing, and on top of that, I just like the way it sounds because it is still modern and really very well produced. So talking about his bass lines, I do think a lot of them, or actually at least the ones I want to single out, are based on a square wave. However, I assume it's not a standard square wave, not a simple square wave. It's more like something that a SH101 or a TB303 would produce. And I realized it just makes a big difference what kind of source material you have or what kind of sound generator. So, but let's dig in and instantiate a grid, obviously. That's supposed to be enter. Okay. So these are just my standard tools, won't need them. Turned on oscilloscope, don't yet know, maybe we will use it, maybe not. Now here, if you have the future phonics set from burn-in noise, you might have some wavetables, which, or a specific wavetable where you can morph between sawtooth and square wave from a TB303. Will not use it today because, if you don't have this commercial product, you cannot take part. So I took the time to actually recreate the shape in the scroll oscillator. And I'll make this waveform available to you somehow. And it was just, I analyzed the acid V from Arturia and just the raw waveform, compared it with an oscilloscope and try to reproduce it or redesign it as precisely as possible. So I'd say it's probably 99% there. And it's just, I didn't realize this for a long time, but it makes a massive difference what the source material is before you even go into the filter, and it will sound so different. And looking at it, this doesn't even look too much like a square wave, in my opinion, at least. Well, you can see it a little bit better if you, for example, move this point here. So if you rotate the phase a bit, and then you just have a square wave with a heavy curve, kind of. But it just sounds... It already sounds different. It has a little bit less bass. But now we need to filter that fellow. And why does it say, please select the clip? Give me a sec. So now it's gone. Okay, have to select a scale, and I want it to be kind of in A diminished or G sharp. Now, let's go in here, create a very simple bassline. I mean, obviously also the bassline patterns are a bit different. It's not based on 16th notes most of the time. Get decent zoom level like so. So, okay. So, and the second one maybe goes up an octave. And then something that is very typical for Space Cat is that we have these gliding bass lines that we go start at the higher octave, and then the second 16th note here we pitch down to the lower octave, which has, of course, a very unique sound. We'll dial this in later on. For now, it doesn't sound too spectacular. Let's stop the kick and listen to the bass line. Not very spectacular yet. And of course, we need a filter. Turn down the key tracking and resonance. And here, actually, I want to go for a filter that is really distorting and coloring. So unlike in the last video where I talked about filters distorting and increasing the Q limit, here I explicitly want the filter to distort or saturate the signal. And then we also need an ADSR. Just make sure that the attack is really on 0. And now it should sound already quite different. Yeah, we already get this kind of, I think this kind of space cat vibe. And that's just thanks to the right oscillator shape and a decent filter, which adds some kind of dirtiness to the entire thing. So, but now also like typical full-on bass lines, unlike in a 303, here we have the possibility to retrigger the phase on every note, which is, yeah, it goes without saying, in every kind of full-on context or psytrance context, we almost always do this, to have just this repeatability, the consistency. And let me add a scope. Let's use the O scope and look at what we create. For some reason, that plugin steals the space key. Okay, that's actually already doing what I want, although I'm a bit surprised because it's actually not where it should be. It should start actually here at phase 0. Somehow it isn't. So, but this is some kind of inconsistent behavior I kind of realized the grid has sometimes. Also, often even when you retrigger the phase, it's just not accurate. It still jumps around. I had this like 3 times today, and then I relaunch Bitwig, go into the grid, and everything is tight. I actually wanted to show you how it's not tight, and for some reason now it is. So, but if you face that problem, which it's not unlikely that you do, something you can do is actually switch it over to digital. Anyway, we don't need the oscillator to be free running when we need absolute repeatability. Yeah, do you see that? I mean, this is usually not related to the voicing. Now it seems to be. Yeah, but I think you see the behavior here, how it's kind of not starting at the same phase. And sometimes I have this no matter what I do here. But there is a solution. There's a solution, and it's kind of weird. I don't know why it works that way. But if I take an ADSR here and put it in between, I mean, the attack has to be a 0, the release, you can do that to the maximum, doesn't matter, because the actual envelope which we use to shape the amplitude is here. This one is just to synchronize it. And now, I just realized another interesting observation I just made. Let's freeze that real quick. Before, it kind of started here or here, right? We had the spike that went down here. Now now it is perfectly resetting. Now the phase of the oscillator starts exactly here. So, well, minus, of course, what the filter does. So I really don't know why we get this behavior, but we do. And when you get it, then just insert an ADSR between the oscillator and the filter, and you should be set. Now, actually, we can get to that part that I wanted to, so we can insert a phase shifter. And now we shift the phase just to a position where we have a phase rotation, because that's where the clicks are. And usually that gives your brain an orientation, and of course it makes the bassline more clicky. And that click then also happens quantized directly on the grid, exactly where the low note starts. I've been talking about this in other videos, so I won't repeat myself here. So now let's look at this oscillograph or whatever it is here and find the right position. Yeah, we have to increase this here to 100%. Yeah, now the phase should roughly be here. You know, I was here, then rotated it back a little bit, so we are about here. That's where I want it to be. Okay. Okay, now we still have the problem that didn't want the kick to be selected, actually this one. So that we are not gliding between these two notes. Well, it's mono, so they do not play at the same time, but that then just kills this note and plays this one. Okay, go back to the polygrid and either click here or click in the background so that you get the inspector panel. Once you have this, go to retrigger and set it to never. So that means that the phase as well as the ADSR do not retrigger as long as there are nodes which overlap. Okay, but now we also want the pitch to change over time. So basically, this is weird. Probably the mouse assignment. So, Bitwig. By the way, this is steer mouse. If you're looking for a nice mouse controller to control complex mice, I can only recommend it. It's not exactly free, but it's well worth it because I have a Logitech mouse, and while I find them fantastic, the Logitech mice controller is a disaster in my opinion. So I'm really happy with this. It's plug and play, select the button functions, and you're free to go. And actually, I control all the windows here. Everything I do, this is all from the mouse. I don't even need to reach out to my keyboard. Maybe I will do a video about this when I talk a little bit about workflow. Okay, now we have the pitch changing without anything retriggering. But of course, now we need to enable legato. Or first the glide. And yeah, I want about 100 milliseconds. 100 milliseconds with 142 BPMs, if I remember correctly, is roughly 1/16 notes. So we'll start pitch down here and kind of make it a little bit shorter. So I think it's 110 milliseconds or so. So we'll pitch down and then arrive at the destination pitch just before the note ends. And this is roughly how I want the note to pitch. Now we also need to enable legato. Otherwise, also not overlapping notes will pitch. For example, when I play a low note, then a high note, it still tries to pitch up even though they do not overlap. When I turn on legato, that doesn't happen anymore. So and of course, now what we can also do is, I think the filter is what I touched last. So it is here. Now we can have kind of interesting kind of filter moves. You can do all sorts of interesting stuff with these kind of bass lines. They're much more forgiving than full on, where it just has to nail in the exact same way all the time. Here we have a lot of flexibility of what we can do. But for now, I also realized that Avi often has a kind of stereo layer on top of it, which is a bit tricky to do with full-on bass lines, or it's at least very easy to mess things up. Here it's quite easy. I have no idea, of course, how he is doing it, but what I figured out is if I just need a few modules, I need a delay, then a chorus, feed them into each other. Now I also need a high-pass filter because we don't want the low frequencies of the bass line to be stereoized, only the high frequencies. The delay itself should be, I think, around 5 milliseconds. Everything more or less is, especially everything more is a bit too much. Then hook this up. And yeah, after the filter, merge it back together. And I say after the filter because I actually want to duplicate the filter so they can have different settings for the stereo version of the signal. And I also want to duplicate the ADSR so that we can also change these settings a tiny bit. Yeah, now let's listen to the stereo signal. Yeah, I can increase the mix here fully. I mean, it's like 50% with this device. Some choruses will only give you the wet signal in a mix. This one does not. It actually gives you the maximum chorused signal, if that's the right word, which is the original and the effect signal blended or equally mixed 50%. And that's why we actually need this delay here to not have any conflicts between the original signal and the chorus signal. Or, well, I just thought it sounds better anyway. And of course, here we can control the width. Yeah, that sounds pretty decent. And then go back to the original and just dial in the stereo signal until we are happy. I think it's interesting how I start hearing it just a little bit around here, and it doesn't pop out as a separate stereo signal, but just the bassline seems to open up a tiny bit without actually kind of introducing something new. Of course, it does introduce something new, but it just kind of slowly starts to sound a little bit wider until you actually start hearing it at some point. Yeah, and I think it's also very interesting to have this kind of separate delete automation here actually as well. We don't have automation, but we still have this dot here, which is a bit strange. Anyway. I did not mute that, so let's just add the kick. And is it deactivated? No. Ah, this one is solid. So I can increase the volume here a little bit. And of course, these kind of bass lines are really shaped by the sidechain. So the sidechain here is not really there to duck stuff away so that the kick has space. It is really a stylistic element which is integral to the bass line itself and how it sounds. So I always use the tool where I already have a sidechain tool. And this is kind of the sidechain I would use for a full-on bass line, where basically here's the kick, here's the first bass line note, and just duck away the first bass line note a little bit, and then the second two have full amplitude. Now here, I want to go for something slightly different. We have to, I think it sounds a lot better when you have kind of more like a traditional sidechain, like a compressor would, for example, produce it. And now and also, can apply a lot more than I usually would with a full-on bass line. Yeah, I think it sounds really nice and groovy and round. Maybe we already have a little bit too much stereo, depending on what we want. Yeah, now what we could do is, for example, automate this cutoff here. So only the stereo layer of the bassline has some movements, while this one stays, I don't know where it is. What is it here? I mean, as far as I know, I deleted the automation. There's no automation here. So why are you complaining here? And there's also nothing, I cannot delete the automation lane. So I a bit confused. I are confused. Cutter frequency, it's here, but there's nothing there. Yeah, kind of. Okay, pretty decent. Now, phase rotation is, as you can hear, I mean, it already sounds good. It is not as important, I think, as it is with a traditional full-on bass line, but it can still give you this tiny little edge and this kind of tiny bit of punchiness that you might want to add or not. I mean, full-on bass lines without phase rotation, basically, no one does it. I mean, here it's definitely possible. So, but let's drop in an all pass, put it to 6-pole, and then, yeah, set the frequency to about 60 hertz. Yeah, I just heard a little click. And by increasing the release time, I think that improved, or it went away. Yeah, sounds nice. And yeah, that's just add some stuff, preferably some acid. Let's see what we have here. My opinion so far, the best emulation of a 303. So yeah, let's. Yeah, that definitely sounds like Space Cat. Yeah, that definitely also sounds like trance wave. Leave it like this and create a note here. Yeah, it's really nice. And yeah, we have not yet even equalized this baseline. Let's add an equalizer, and yeah, well, I have to still figure out a little bit how to ideally or optimally equalize this baseline. General rule, kind of remove some frequencies here, maybe boost a little bit here and around 100 hertz. That seems to work. But by definition, with square wave baselines, you have less problems equalizing them. Also because, well, the cutoff is a lot lower and does a lot less movement. But square wave on its own has less overtones, actually exactly half of what a square wave has. If you look at the spectrogram, you will see that every second harmonic is actually missing. So that leaves you from the get-go with a lot more space, which of course you can then fill with other stuff, which is nice. Yeah, I really like it, and I think I'll make a track like this, and yeah, to see how it turns out. So I hope you liked it, you enjoyed the tutorial, you learned something, and yeah, see you next time. Peace out.